Every January, something unusual happens in a tiny Swiss town high in the Alps. Limousines glide across snow-covered roads, private jets crowd the runways, and the world's most influential people disappear behind closed doors. But here's the part almost no one talks about. Davos was never meant to be a meeting of the world's most powerful. It quietly became one. So the real question isn't what happens at Davos, it asks who actually runs the world economy when everyone powerful is in the same room off camera. And today we're unpacking that mystery. To understand Davos, you need to understand one man, Klaus Schwab, a German economist with a strange idea in the early 1970s. Europe was facing inflation, currency instability, and a coming energy crisis. Schwab believed the solution wasn't governments acting alone, but something more radical. CEOs, politicians, bankers, and academics collaborating as equals. It sounded harmless, almost idealistic. But that idea created a new kind of power, one not elected, not accountable, and not officially recognized. Multi-stakeholder governance. And Davos became its headquarters. It began quietly. In 1971, Schwab invited European executives to what he called the Management Symposium. There was no media attention, no spectacle, just meetings about how to improve competitiveness. Corporations wanted global influence, and Davos became the common meeting point for corporate interests disguised as cooperation. By the mid-1980s, heads of state began showing up. Then came the tech giants. Then the billionaires. By the early 2000s, presidents, prime ministers, and CEOs of trillion-dollar companies all walked the same narrow hallways. The World Economic Forum, what Davos eventually evolved into, was no longer a conference. It was a global power broker. The rise of Davos coincided perfectly with the rise of globalization. National borders weakened economically. Supply chains spanned continents. Money could travel anywhere with a click. And the moment traditional borders became less important, Davos filled the vacuum. It wasn't just a place to talk, it was where deals happened. Tech giants coordinated policies. Governments made trade promises. Banks negotiated bailout possibilities long before recessions hit. The public saw the panels, the speeches, the photo ops, not the real negotiations taking place upstairs. Davos wasn't controlling the world economy directly. It was shaping the people who do, but then everything changed. In 2008, the financial crisis hit. The world economy nearly collapsed, and the same institutions represented at Davos were right at its center. Public trust evaporated. The narrative shifted from admiration to skepticism. Maybe Davos isn't solving problems. Maybe it's creating them. Governments bailed out banks. Citizens questioned globalization. And the WEF responded by expanding its ambitions. Instead of stepping back, it pushed new ideas like the Great Reset and stakeholder capitalism. Some saw these ideas as visionary. Others saw them as an unelected group trying to redesign society. Davos tried to rebrand. It spoke more about transparency, sustainability, inequality, and climate. It held public-facing panels and posted speeches online. But the core structure never changed. Private power meeting public power without public oversight. Each year, Davos produced promises of better markets, fairer globalization, and safer financial systems. Yet inequality continued rising. Debt continued ballooning. Housing crises hit multiple countries. Financial bubbles grew. Davos offered solutions without accountability, and the problems returned just bigger. And here's where the story becomes unsettling. Today, more than 60% of global GDP is represented by the people who attend Davos. Roughly 2,500 attendees influence decisions that affect 8 billion people. Nearly half of all private wealth is controlled by individuals invited to the forum, and many negotiation rooms still operate with zero public visibility. Patterns repeat again and again. Before the dot-com crash, Davos discussions were optimistic. Before the 2008 crash, Davos speeches were confident. Before the 2020 pandemic, Davos declared global systems stronger than ever. Every time the system breaks, the same people return to discuss how to fix the system they built. The first takeaway is that Davos isn't a conspiracy, it's a network. And networks often wield more power than nations. The second takeaway is that power today isn't held by governments alone. It's distributed sometimes unequally between corporations, financiers, and global organizations. The third takeaway is that to understand Davos is to understand modern power itself. Not loud, not official, but quietly interconnected. But here's the warning. History shows that when economic systems are shaped behind closed doors, distrust rises and instability follows. And we are beginning to see the early signs again. So, if you want to understand the world economy, don't just watch markets or politicians. Follow the networks behind them. And if you found this breakdown valuable, hit like, subscribe, and share because the more people understand how global power actually works, the harder it becomes for decisions to happen without public scrutiny.